John Young is the founder of Cryptome. New York-based architect is better known as one of the net's most ardent foes of government secrecy. William Arkin, Washington Post columnist and NBC News military analyst, calls Cryptome the Google of national security. There are high-resolution satellite photos of the President Bush's Crawford Ranch, technical documents detailing how the National Security Agency spies on computer traffic, even the home addresses and telephone numbers of government officials, including former Director of National Intelligence John Negroponte. This is truly an amazing hodgepodge of information and fascinating background into a man whose single-minded focus is government security. Cryptome.org. Now, it's all over the Washington Post, AP, PC World, CNET News. Microsoft relents, Cryptome returns. Microsoft action hits Cryptome website, shut it down. Microsoft backs down over online spy guide. This just happened yesterday. Microsoft drops Cryptome spy document fight. Microsoft brings down whistleblower site after spy guide leak. Whistleblower website is back online. IT business, on and on and on with Microsoft and how they spy on people without warrants. This is the progenitor of WikiLeaks. This is a guy involved in helping set up the Electronic Frontiers Foundation, so much an icon in defending the free web, the front lines of the info war, and we need to support Cryptome.org. Good to have you on with us, John Young. Thank you for coming on.
It's a pleasure, Alex.
You know you're over the target when you're getting the flack. You have certainly gotten the dragon to come out of its nest and give it a bunch of attention it didn't want. They miscalculated. Break down your site, the history, the fights you've been through, the raids, all of it, this current attack, and now this big defeat. You have the floor.
We set up the site in 1996 to publish documents that the government doesn't want published. That's its only purpose. And so we sit and wait for the documents to show up, and people send us stuff and have been sending us stuff. We now got about 54,000 files on the site. That some controversial, some not so much, but they're all based on reducing the amount of secrecy by government and, through government, the secrecy of corporations who do work with government. And so that brings us to the Microsoft case that's happened more recently. One of the things that's happened since 9/11 is that spying on Americans has become very big business. And corporations now are doing it covertly, Microsoft among them, but all the giant people online are now assisting government to spy on citizens and through their customer data. An anonymous person gave us what we call the Microsoft Spy Guide. It's actually a global criminal assistance guide to law enforcement to help law enforcement write subpoenas for Microsoft's data on its customers. And it holds the law enforcement people's hands who may not be technically adept to tell them what to ask for and also how to explain what they're getting from Microsoft about their customers. And so we published that. We thought that was a good document for the public to see. And so a day or two later, we got a notice from our provider, Network Solutions, another giant firm who also spies on its customers, saying that Microsoft had filed a notice under DMCA alleging copyright infringement of this document. We sent back and said this document needs to be seen by the public. Copyright should not be used to hide this document. It's nothing about copyright. Copyright is being used to hide information about what's being done to Microsoft's customers. So Network Solutions says, well, then file a counterclaim. So we did, and they immediately shut our site. As soon as they got the claim, they shut it down, locked the domain where we couldn't transfer it anywhere else. And that's the first time that's ever happened. But it was done through this law called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which gives corporations the right to shut down sites just by filing a notice, and there's no appeal to it. So we want to test that. And we hope that Microsoft would take us to court. They've since backed off because other people on the Internet picked it up and started publishing the same document, including a number of news organizations. And so very quickly the document became very well known throughout the U.S. and throughout the world. Even though we were down, it was already out. And since then, yesterday, Microsoft sent a notice to Network Solutions saying, we're lifting our complaint. Please restore the site. And that's what's happened. So
which shows that's a fraudulent complaint. You now have damageable action.
Yeah, in fact, Prison Planet made the first point that I've seen about it, saying that Network Solution actually used authority as a domain manager for thousands of sites to actually lock our domain down. Typically, that role is separate from offering ISP service, and so they use two powers. One is they shut down our site, which is what any ISP can do, but they also then use their domain management power to lock the domain name, where I couldn't transfer it to another site I'd already set up in anticipation of this happening.
Which is outside of that digital millennium law.
Well, that's what's happened, is that corporations now are abusing this law because all they need to do is send an email to an ISP to get action. They don't need to go to court. They don't need expensive lawyers. They just do it, and it happens. That's the way the thing has been set up, but it's being abused now. They're actually claiming copyright over stuff that has no right to be copyrighted. So it's a sham now, and it needs to be changed.
Well, let's expand on that. 4 or 5 months ago, the secret UN treaty on copyright came out. It's basically an expansion of this. That's what Italy's saying. You've got to have a license to post video. They want you to have a license to be a blogger. We've got Australia saying they want Chinese-style net censorship. Anyone complains, then your website's put on a list that's banned in Australia. We have Time Magazine, Newsweek, the New York Times calling for a kinder, gentler, gatekeeper internet. We have cybersecurity openly taking over the entire grid, the physical transfer lines of the web. I mean, they're definitely coming against the web right now.
That's right. Very much so. It's a worldwide initiative. And one of the things that we find interesting is not just government, it is these commercial firms who also are working with government to control the Internet and shut down freedom of speech, shut down the more unruly side of the Internet. And
well, that's Internet 2. That's what they've been saying for 7 years. Internet 2 meetings that are public, we have the transcripts, is that corporations in this New World Order, they're given the government power.
That's right. That's right. And so it's not just government, it's these firms who also want to dominate the Internet. And so this guide that we published, we've now published about 36 of these, what we call spying guides. These are arrangements that these corporations have with ISPs to hand over data on customers without the customers knowing it's being done. Some of the companies make it public, but others hide it, like Microsoft, Yahoo, Google, a whole slew of them still hide it because they don't want the customers to know they're doing this. It's also a very lucrative business. And so the Internet is a gigantic spying machine right now. And it's very lucrative business to spy on it. We put up a site listing all the companies who sell spying services to government and to corporations. You know, there are these subcontractors who write these programs to do the spying and the program data analysis. So Microsoft is just the top of the heap. There's a whole range of smaller companies providing the service around the world.
Well, I mean, Bill Gates 2 weeks ago said China's doing a great thing with its censorship, and he doesn't see a problem with it. Microsoft, according to my research, helped build the architecture of censorship for China.
Absolutely. That's right. That's what they're doing.
Well, look at our...
Well, this is just business. Well, actually, no, it's not just business.
Well, look at our government. When it has its druthers in a third world country or first world, they set up a dictatorship. And they've made deals with big corporations as a cartel to slice it up and control it. And then the revolving door in cybersecurity and homeland security, and the same in the other nations, rotates through these private corporations. The government gives them giant contracts to spy and steal data. I mean, it goes back to the 1996 Telecommunications Act, where they paid the phone companies to put in the spying rooms and all the facilities, and from my research, that's all the Cybersecurity Act is putting in the next wave of these snooping grids over the entire Internet.
That's correct.
So where do you go from here? Because we need to punish Microsoft. We need to point out the tyranny that's being engaged in here.
Well, I'll just say is that I'm one of a number of people who are working on this. The Electronic Freedom Frontier Foundation is one of the people taking the lead on filing suit against these corporations. Whenever they attack an individual, they go to court and win most of their cases because these folks don't want to be challenged in court. They want to do this covertly without going to court. And so EFF is doing it, but a number of others are doing it as well. And you mentioned, I think, WikiLeaks, who's also publishing information that is being hidden from the public. Iceland is about to set up a regime, we hope, where finally come into its own, and people will be able to publish more through Iceland. They cannot publish even in freedom-loving America for this very reason, because right now the Internet is becoming a major manipulation device. People worldwide, and the companies that are running it, the government doesn't run the Internet. These companies do. And they're completely in bed with the government on this, and because it's a very lucrative business to have.
Well, I mean, let's go back to 2002, a USA Today article. I think the headline was, "Scofflaws Get Caught Ordering Pizza." Guys, pull that up for me. And in it talks about how the big pizza companies, the big three, get 25% of fines and fees. And when you call to order a pizza, they know it's your real name and real address. And so they run it through a database of warrants. And instead of a pizza, you get a SWAT team. I don't think the public realizes how far along this is.